Okay, let's begin our panel discussion. Reshaping Central Market, the importance of small businesses in the community fabric. So let's go ahead and get our panelists up here. I want to introduce you to our first panelist. Amy Cohen is Director of Neighborhood Business Development at the San Francisco Office of Economic and Workforce Development. John Clausen, founding partner of Equity Community Builders, which is developing the new Strand Theater for ACT on Market Street. J.K. Deneen is a reporter who has been covering real estate at the San Francisco Business Times for 7 years. He's also covered the Central Market area for 11 years from the time he was with the San Francisco Examiner and the Warfield building, so he has walked these sidewalks many a day and can talk about that experience as well. And Henry Kornilowicz is president of the South of Market Business Association, SAMBA, and the District Council Merchants, the umbrella organization for all merchants associations in the city. Talk about your experience with the Central Market area, maybe the history you have with it, how you got involved. And John, I'll start with you. I know you've been working on this project for about 3 years now.
We originally got actively involved in the kind of Central Market area through the 950 project, which you probably know a lot more about now after J.K.'s articles in the last couple of days, which is a block around the Warfield where we've been focusing on creating a center for the arts as part of a larger mixed-use development. And through that effort, we got involved with ACT, who originally wanted to put their theater on the 950 block, but really moved quicker to establish a presence on Central Market. And so that's where our involvement began with ACT, and when they acquired the Strand, we've been helping them get that developed and financed, and fortunately now in construction.
And Amy, what about you?
In about January 2010, it was Mayor Newsom's last year in office. He asked our office to start working proactively with neighborhood groups to come up with a strategy for Central Market. And we, at the time, felt like there were a lot of different folks who'd been doing that work for a while, but it hadn't come together under one sort of effort. So we decided to coin the term the Central Market Partnership, which was meant to connote a partnership not just with the private sector developers, but the private sector more broadly, like groups like Urban Solutions and other nonprofits and stakeholder groups, tenant groups, small businesses, etc. So I became the person ultimately who sort of project managed with my staff, some of them are here today, Jordan and Ellen, project managed the development of that strategy and then have helped implement parts of it. But really, honestly, 3/4 of the people in this room have been implementing it too.
Henry, I want to ask you. You have been involved, the 6th Street, the mid-market area. Wow, what kind of changes have you seen in the time that you have been working with these neighborhood organizations?
Well, first, what's been a real challenge, as you can imagine, through 6th Street, that we've been dying for a change in that area, and so it's been happening, but also a mid-market too, where, I don't think I thought it would never change, it would stay like that forever. So since then, we've seen these changes. We've got Phil's Burgers that I was on the South of Market Project Area Committee at that time, which is advisory body to the development agency. And we worked really hard to get them into that space, which was taken for such a long time. And at least we turned that corner around. I think going further back up here towards like 10th Street, we had just across the street at the beer hall that normally is pretty hard to get, especially in this area trying to get a liquor license or trying to sell beer and wine. And so we worked really hard to be able to do that, and it just opened up, I think, about a month ago. So that's what we're doing. We're hoping to see more changes in the whole of mid-market area.
And J.K., what was it like when you first started, your first day on the job, walking down Market Street versus now?
Well, I think my first story that I ever wrote in San Francisco was about an Urban Solutions client. That was in summer 2002. I showed up at work and my editor said, go down to 43 6th Street and talk to these Irish guys who must be crazy to have opened a little bar called Anu at 43 6th Street. I thought, well, this is an easy job. But so I went down there, and it was pretty scary. And I think since then, I've probably written about every building between 5th Street and Van Ness, because they've all sold, some of them twice, some of them 3 times. And it's just been really exciting to see. I don't know if you noticed, the scaffolding is now off the now renovated Warfield building. I've seen lots of new construction and investment in the area.
Let's talk about, this being an Urban Solutions event, the small businesses in the area. When we talk about the fact that they're there, or some aren't what people would want at this space, what role do you see for small businesses to play in this vision of revitalizing Central Market? And please, all of you, chime in.
I'll chime in. I've worked quite extensively with Urban Solutions, and let me tell you, trying to navigate through the permitting system is really daunting. Especially someone brand new to the city, has no idea what you have to do. And it's been through Urban Solutions we've been able to go out there and do that, to go to the planning department, the health department, the building department, DPW, all these different departments in the city. And honestly, they can just drive me nuts. And they just take the bull by the horns and run right through it. And it really helps small businesses to sort of feel that comfort level with someone they can go to that can help them to start a business and open a business up. So that's what I see in Urban Solutions. They're doing a great job.
I think the small businesses are really a primary driver for the work that we've been doing in the neighborhood. I mean, when we started, the storefront vacancy rate was like 30%, which is higher than anywhere in the city. And I think a lot of what we set out to do was figure out how to support the businesses that are here, the decent ones, especially some of the ones on 6th Street that have been here for a while and really have struggled. So we were trying to bring in more of a critical mass of small businesses and do other things to improve the storefront conditions. So, Urban Solutions, I don't think anyone mentioned today, the 6th Street substation, but that was a pretty big milestone, because with the end of redevelopment, that project almost died. And there were a lot of folks like Henry and Urban Solutions who said, no, that's not going to die. And the city was able to deliver that project anyway. And we're by no means there, but I think that the small businesses, even in the room today, I think Adam Fong from Center for New Music, and Keith Wilson, I think, is here from Phantom Coast, which is to be opened next year, just a couple blocks off Market. Part of the job has been just finding folks who were willing to risk things to come to this area. And that's been a huge part of not only supporting who is here, but trying to change the neighborhood so it will serve everyone.
Clearly it seems to me that the small businesses and retailers are really critical to activating and securing the street. But I think as any retailer knows, in order to survive, you got to have pedestrians, you got to have foot traffic. And it's pretty interesting to look at the numbers on Market Street. If you look 5th Street down to the Embarcadero, it's like 6,500 pedestrians an hour. And if you go 6th Street to 10th Street, it's about 1,500 pedestrians an hour. And so it is purely driven by how many people are on the street and how successful these businesses are, and how successful we're going to be able to attract businesses and new retailers to come here. And so it's one thing, I think it's really important to attract those businesses, but it's also important to look broader at what else activates the street. And all the businesses that are now moving in, Twitter and all the related tech companies and all the employers are a big part of it. The other part that I think is a big part, and I know Amy's a big focus of this and the Office of Economic Workforce Development, is also trying to attract and stabilize the arts in the area. And that's a lot of what we've been trying to do with ACT and what we're trying to do with the 950 project, because much of what makes Central Market, I think, really attractive is this kind of eclectic, crazy mix of uses that could be there all the time. It's not just the workers, but it's also the events and the activities and the arts and the performances that happen that I think can help bring more people and more stability to that stretch kind of between 6th and 10th, that then will help support more of the retail and small businesses and help them thrive.
Yeah, I think that really the small businesses and the arts are the two key things that will make mid-market unique. And honestly, that's what is attracting companies like Zendesk and Twitter and Square in the first place. The problem is that the prices now that a lot of these buildings along Market Street are fetching are so high that I think it's going to be difficult going forward for a lot of small locally owned businesses to afford those spaces.
Well, and that's one of the things I want to bring up when you have sort of your maybe institutional owners who, want to make a profit, but yet you want to support the small businesses, but how do they pay these high rents? So, how do you, help mom and pop organizations thrive in an environment where, the bottom line is people who own these buildings need to, are doing it as an investment. So where do you find that nice balance? And how do you make it happen?
I'll do it.
I
I mean, we've been trying to strengthen and invent tools as we go to meet these kinds of needs, and I think Urban Solutions is one of the key partners in doing that. I mean, every business needs something different, so, if it comes down to financing, our office has been creating different financing tools that go from basically a $5,000 loan up to $1 million loan. We have a bunch of different products sort of within that, and for Pearl's Burgers, they needed money. That was the thing that it took, and we all went to bat for them and said, this is going to cost us a lot to get Pearl's in here, but it's going to be worth it. I think other businesses need different things, need help getting the right lease, and that's something that we've been, over the last several years, working with Urban Solutions and kind of helping build up their role as an advocate for small businesses as they go through the leasing process. And I mean, it makes all the difference. And even though some of the newer buildings have high prices, I mean, you'd be surprised at the variance or variations, I guess, in rents that are out there, and we're not just looking at at Market Street itself. I mean, we're finding businesses are willing to go a couple blocks off either direction.
What are the rents? I mean, is there a way to just give a rough estimate of the?
No.
Oh, okay.
I mean, that from a storefront perspective, but
I know. I mean, the office rents in the Class A buildings like the Twitter building are now, they're $50 a square foot, so not that different from the rest of downtown. That's for office. Retail, I think there's a greater variation.
Yeah.
Well, and retail varies very dramatically because, business is what supports the business. So it kind of comes back to the foot traffic and the success of the street, because as you look kind of down below Fifth Street, the rents are incredibly high. But if you go the other direction, they're actually incredibly low. And as business picks up for those retailers, they can actually afford more rent because as a percentage of their operations, it becomes a much more manageable number. And that's why you see such huge variation, I think, in retail rents, as it's just driven by foot traffic.
John, I want to talk about working on such a big project, and then Henry, you mentioned, the vacancies that happen in the storefront, and that's what drives the foot traffic, bringing businesses in. I know you mentioned that, to change really the look and feel of sidewalks, getting people in there, not just, say, at the theater at night, but you said that there's going to be a cafe going in, or what are the plans for sort of keeping that traffic going?
Yeah, for the Strand in particular, there was a really deliberate effort to open up the main lobby to make it a big two-story volume and very transparent and open to the street, so it engaged the street and provided a place for activity. And then on the ground floor, there would be a cafe, coffee shop that would be open all the time, of course. But I think one of the big attractors there is that ACT's program is not just performance in that facility, but ACT has a very large educational component. And the theater there, as well as the smaller Black Box Theater, will be the primary place for a lot of their educational activities and daytime rehearsals and smaller events. So again, it's about keeping that active all the time. So it's active during the day with both the cafe and with the theater and educational patrons, and then at night for performances. And I think it's really important, and I think we're looking the same way at the 950 block, where there's a large arts component of using that arts activity to help draw people there at all times during the day to keep it active and have a strong street presence, but have much of the actual arts activity occur on upper levels, so to preserve the ground floor active for smaller retailers to help activate the street front.
How much retail do you need to make a city block vibrant? Well, what is needed to make, to have that foot traffic that you want if you're going to increase it in Central Market?
I think as much as you can get. I mean, it's actually, Market Street, and JK can speak to this, I mean, the fabric of the buildings is kind of different. It's tall, big buildings. It's not your little sort of 1 or 2 story main street that a lot of the rest of the city has. So you have to remember that. It's not a neighborhood commercial district. It's a downtown, tall building kind of place. But that said, I think, there's, most of the buildings have some kind of retail presence. You don't want to create too much that makes it hard to keep them filled until we've got all the development, I think, more complete. But you want as much as you can get.
So in other words, it's kind of what comes first. I mean, you need to get the buildings occupied and then start developing the retail.
Well, I mean, we've been trying to do everything at once, but I think that the retail is probably slower for those reasons. And because we've got construction. I mean, we've got a lot of construction right now, which is a challenge to ground floor retailers too.
I just want to say that one of the things, as we mentioned before, is foot traffic. Without foot traffic, you're really not going to be able to have business survive. So that's what's really critical. And that is picking up because we've got the building on a corner stop, so Twitter should be open any day. So we're going to have quite a bit of foot traffic coming from there. I can see the whole corridor from 10th all the way down to the waterfront. We're going to have much more foot traffic than we have now. So that will encourage people to come into mid-market and to open up storefronts with retail, coffee shops, place of entertainment. I visualize some an art area together with some live entertainment, jazz or something like that. Particularly once Twitter and everybody else is really operating, this can become a very lively area of the city.
I think that, I've heard retail brokers say you need 10 spaces in a row to really kind of create, to really anchor a nice stretch of retail. I think you really have that between 6th Street and really here, where we're sitting right now. There's like a very nice rhythm of smaller buildings, and then you hit some larger buildings starting with 1155 Market and then the San Giacomo property, and then you've got kind of much bigger buildings over past that with NEMA. I mean, I think that Crescent Heights, the developer of NEMA, which is 754 units, have the way that they're breaking up the retail. I think they've got a lot of smaller spaces, which hopefully will work out. I mean, I think that the problem is, with the lack of foot traffic, the retailers who might be willing to take a chance. When you look at what happened in Mission Bay, the retail was built out before all the housing by the ballpark, and who was willing to go in there? It was all chains. It wasn't the small operators. I mean, they started to come later, like Phil's Coffee, but I mean, it was the big credit companies that could take a loss for a couple of years because they wanted to be down there by the ballpark. So I mean, I do think that's the challenge, that I mean, you got to get the feet on the ground, the boots on the ground before you can, before these people are going to start making money. So hopefully building owners will be patient.
Well, I want to hear from each of you when you talk about this area, and we're talking about business, whether it's Twitter or other businesses in this area. You're talking about foot traffic. You're talking about people who are living and working here. There's housing that is starting to come. What mix of retail do you see that is needed? What will the workers at Twitter want versus the other people who might live in this area? So give me your ideas of what you think should be going into this area.
Well, I mean, we've really been trying to go for a mix, and I think you see that mix a little bit more on 6th Street right now, because it's, people have been working harder at filling vacancies for a longer time. I think that there's been some concern that, you know, the only new retail we're gonna get is high-end, you know, $5 cup of coffee. And I think that for the reasons that everyone's been talking about today, it's just gonna take some time. Those were the first. It's kind of the same as credit tenants going into Mission Bay. It's the $5 cup of coffee that might have to come first because the foot traffic isn't there. The more you get people, the prices go down. The, you know, people, the businesses will be able to subsist on people coming in the door rather than on the prices they charge. So I think that's been part of the theory behind the grocery store. I mean, we've been working with people in the Tenderloin trying to get a full-service grocery store to the neighborhood for quite a while. And I think that the new grocery, or actually they call it food emporium, at Market Square is going to be great, and it's going to serve the neighborhood in a unique way. But I think that in a couple of years, we're going to be able to get a bigger grocery store, maybe further down this direction. Maybe it's on Market, maybe it's in the Tenderloin. But I think, you know, I see a real diversity of businesses being able to come in here.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's important to get the diversity, and I think it's important to, you know, over time, you look beyond just what is on the Market Street frontage. And hopefully, as Market Street strengthens, the benefit of that starts to wrap around the blocks and penetrate deeper into the neighborhoods. And I think particularly if you look on the Tenderloin side of Market, that's really important. And I think those side streets, as they get into the neighborhoods, is where you can start to get even more diversity of neighborhoods serving retail, because there's naturally going to be a gradation in kind of what rents are going to be depending on the frontage. And where you want those neighborhood serving uses is as they start to penetrate in on the side streets and in the neighborhoods.
I mean, I think it's about, you know, what people need and then what people say in the businesses want. So, you know, Henry, I want to ask you, what did you find as the evolution of 6th Street came along in mid-market? You know, what did you find were the businesses that did well or that were needed?
Well, for example, Jackson O is not common just to move on to 6th Street. It was on 5th Street before and moved on to 6th Street, and there was a big demand for that. Then there was dry cleaners, we got split fee seduction, and you know, so many exterior repairs to the place. But the whole of 6th Street is more the restaurants or food type places. There's a place next to open up an ice cream store that's opening up, yoga places, those sort of things where people sort of want to grab on and go and that's it. They don't want to just buy a whole bunch of things to take with them in a big cart or whatever. So it's more sort of smaller stores.
And I was looking at some notes, I think, from Urban Solutions. According to their research, the residents in Central Market want an affordable grocery store, but the tech employees want frozen yogurt, pet supplies, and bicycle repair. Well, they've got the bicycle repair, and I guess the others will come in, but it's really, you know, a wide mix as more and more people are working and living there. Jackie, I want to ask you, what do you see as the most significant business trend in Central Market?
Trend in terms of, well, I mean, I think the trend is that land that was selling for, you know, $50,000 per, you know, buildable unit is now selling for 100. And so, I mean, values, land values have doubled, building values have doubled, and every institutional investor from New York to LA and probably overseas now knows the mid-market story. So, I mean, I almost think that the real estate investment community has kind of got ahead of what's actually happening. And so, I mean, the people I think that they're really, probably things are overpriced right now, and there isn't really the demand to support the type of rents that some of the landlords are asking. You know, that we'll see what happens whether, you know, how fast.
Did that happen because of Twitter coming in, or the feeling that there might be more? You know, what drove up those?
Well, I mean, it's San Francisco, right? It's, right now, it's considered a super core market. It's probably the hottest real estate market in the country. And so it just, investors are like lemmings, right? They all want to do the same thing at the same time. And so it's just, it's San Francisco's day in the sun right now. And mid-market is a place that's still relatively affordable compared to Soma and Mission Bay, the financial district. And it's a place where people have the perception that there's still value to be added, where you can still take a building that may not, that may be 50 or 75% leased, put some money into it, raise rents, and make a better return on capital.
And I just want to get back on the places that sort of opened up and they're doing well now. For example, Anu, when they opened up and they closed and OMG moved in, which is sort of a gay, straight type of bar and night club, and it's doing quite well. And we have the Monarch, which is another place on 6th Street that is also doing a beautiful job on that place. And then, of course, we can't forget the Middleton Theatre, sort of Filipino-themed night theatre on the corner of 6th and Howard. So those sort of places would help as far as the community. If you want to go somewhere at night time, it's a place you can go to for some entertainment.
Just picking up on JK's theme with the kind of the surge in the real estate market. I mean, the good news is mid-market's happening, and the transition is in place. I think the bad news is that short term in particular, I think there's some real risk to local businesses and to arts organizations that are threatened because of the push and the pressure on rents. I mean, ACT is a classic example where they've had to reduce the amount of space they've occupied for years by over a third simply because of the increase in rents. And I think the same thing happens with some small businesses where the ability to support higher rents has not yet arrived because all the people have not arrived, but the pressure is on the rents for those organizations and they can be pushed out. And I think the same thing is happening with arts and nonprofits. And all of these organizations, the small businesses, the arts and nonprofits, I think are really critical to maintain in this area. And so I think one of the real struggles, and this is what we're trying to deal with ACT and 950 and elsewhere, is to create a mechanism or a home that gives them some permanence, that keeps it affordable. And I know Amy's office is working and Urban Solutions is working to try to find ways to keep affordability in place for some of these organizations and some of these small businesses as the business catches up so that they can actually support these higher rents. And I think that could be a real challenge over the next few years.
And I mean, that's really exactly where we are right now. You did a great job explaining it. And I think it's an important point that the ability to pay the increased rent will come when the construction is done and the people are here. Now, the nonprofits are, I think, their own category. And the city, thanks to Supervisor Kim's leadership, I think there is going to be some work done, like was done about 12 years ago, to figure out, well, what more can the city do to really ensure that the nonprofits that we care about can continue to remain here. I think with the arts in Central Market, we've got a number of new tools kind of in the hopper right now related to zoning and some other philanthropic initiatives. But I think it's the critical piece right now. It's like the next 2 to 5 years is how to bring in the right folks and keep the folks that are here going. And I mean, and you look at Toulon, and I just saw their new sign today because I haven't seen it before. And it's pretty cool to know that they're still there. I don't even know what their rent is, but it can't be much. But it's that's part of what our office is trying to do, is make sure that those guys stick around.
So I always like to throw this out, king and queen for a day, you're mayor and lead, you can make any decision you want as far as Central Market and creating a harmony between keeping nonprofits and revitalizing the area. What if you could do it yourself? What would you do, and how would you create that synergy? Keep the nonprofits and as we're waiting for things to catch up.
Well, first of all, I think you need to have a mix of both non-profits and for-profit. And for the for-profit, I think you need to give them tax breaks. And I think the big struggle that you have is rent. How much, people are charging for rent. Once they see the place starting to bloom, suddenly the rents skyrocket and people just can't afford to move in, so stay vacant. And I think that's where by Urban Solutions and the city stepping in and saying, hey, wait a minute, let's get a reasonable rent over here. Don't go charge an arm and leg because it's not going to fly. And this is for the good of the city. And that's where the Urban Solutions and the city comes in. And I think as a mayor, I would probably want to see participation with a potential landlord to make sure they aren't just trying to get a top dollar for it. And again, I think the tax base are important. I think if Twitter can get a tax base, why can't small business get tax base?
They can. I was going to make that point. Actually, just to be clear, the tax break that's in place for Twitter is actually applicable to small businesses, and I think Pearl's Burgers might be one of the participants in that. So, just to correct.
Sorry. Well, I wasn't aware of that.
Flyers in the back. No.
Well, and for the arts, I will say that the mayor and the supervisor's office are actually, I think, doing the right things. They've focused on this issue. They're really trying to move forward legislation that creates meaningful incentives to keep the arts and nonprofits in this community. So I actually applaud that. I think it's a very solid move on the city's part to do so.
And I think one of the things about, you talk about people getting forced out, well, there's another side of that, which is people happily getting bought out. If you look at, Kaplan's, which is a wonderful Army-Navy store on Market Street that's been there for 75 years and is family run, and it's a father and a daughter who have been in there, and they've got a loyal clientele of a lot of the Burning Man people. But they're in a situation where the dad, I believe he's over 80, and he's going to retire, and they're sitting on a piece of property at 1055 Market that suddenly is very valuable. And they love their business and they love their customers, but they're in a position where they're going to be able to to sell that for, it could be 60 condos there, and if land is going for 100,000 a buildable unit, that would be a pretty nice retirement for them.
JKL, I want to start with you, but and ask all of you. For small business owners out here, what do small businesses need to know about what's happening in Central Market? What advice would you give them if they're considering a space in Central Market? What advice would you give them?
I guess I'd just say be very aggressive. Get to know brokers because things are changing very, very fast. And probably the time to get in is as soon as possible. And so, look for properties that are on the market where you could actually go and have conversations with people who are bidding on buildings before they even buy them. And that may be a way to get in early and to be part of a redevelopment project rather than try to come in afterwards.
Any other advice?
Oh, well, I just think to let people know that you can be profitable. That's what's important for small business. You can't open up a place and not make any money. So you've got to be able to convince them it's going to be profitable. And how do you do that? By saying, look, there are all these residential buildings that are coming in, and we will get foot traffic, and give them sort of what we sort of can project of what sort of foot traffic you can get and justify why they can move into the area and be profitable.
And I would just add that if they seek out people in our office or at Urban Solutions, they'll learn about ways that might help them be profitable. I mean, we have encouraged the tech companies to do business with the small businesses that are in the neighborhood, and it's included in the community benefits agreements for some of them to do X amount of catering with, small businesses in the area. We also worked with the community benefit districts to form a website called Epicenter SF, which is meant to highlight arts events and also businesses in the neighborhood, because not everyone knows that you're there, even if you open your doors, because they're just not used to seeing you there. So I think there's different kinds of marketing opportunities that people can learn about.
Before I open it up for questions, one last question to each of you. Since you have a vested interest in Central Market, what would you encourage this audience, people, tourists, family, to see and do on Market Street if you haven't already? Is there some little gem or something that they need to see?
International Art Museum of America. Take the kids.
You know, it's sort of just sort of getting revitalized. So, apart from what I just sort of at the International Arts Museum of Charlotte, where I was thinking open, and there's not all that much yet, but it's the proximity of you know, the wide sidewalks, you know, and it's proximity to City Hall, to the library, to the Asian Art Museum, and all these parts, and then we've got the farmers market over on Brown Unions, UN Plaza, right? So I think that's and the food market, the farmers market, it's a really great place to go. You get all sorts of stuff out there.
It's happening today, right? Don't they have it every Thursday, or is it Tuesday or Thursday?
Wednesday, Friday, Sunday.
Okay, I missed all the days. Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday.
But again, it's things like that, you know. The other to let people know that there's parking around here. For example, at City Hall, they have a big, huge parking lot down underground. That's where I parked this morning. And so it's not a lot bad. And not to mention that, not to forget that we also have a Muni that travels up and down. So, you know, it's got a lot of potential, and I think that, but right now it's for us people to attract to, the more we're going to get opened up, then we'll have more. And of course, with the ACT, we can get your, what do you call it, clothing for shows and whatever, you know, so, costume shop, sorry.
I think the costume shop has been a huge part. But John, I want to ask you, give us a quick update. I mean, for ACT, what's our timeline for?
We just started construction within the last week or so. It's about a 15-month construction period, so we should be done the end of next year.
That's great. And of course, the costume shop, I don't know how many people go there for.
Well, also, I don't know if you all know, but ACT actually created a small black box theater at the costume shop that they have for very small performances and opened up to other community groups. And I guess the other big attraction to me for mid-market is just to look at all the construction activity and cranes. You know, if you're a developer construction guy, that's a big attraction. Just
So exciting. Oh, I love those cranes. JK, come on, give us
I would say
the
that
hotspots you like.
go to the Oddfellow building, which is a gorgeous building. CBS just opened, and it's all kinds of dance groups that are located there, like Lions, and it's just fabulous. They've got actually an Oddfellow museum in there. It's got all kinds of artifacts from the history of the fraternal organization. I love Huckleberry Bikes, great place. Yeah, I mean, I think that the architecture, where Huckleberry Bikes, that building is gorgeous. I don't know much about it, but the scaffolding just came off, and it's unbelievably beautiful building. 1019 Market is going to be unbelievable when they take the scaffolding off there. That's where Zendesk is going to go. There's going to be what, cafe on the ground floor. Yeah.
And you're not nervous to walk around like you were in, 11 or 12 years ago, right? I would just take care.
I'm usually on my bike, but yeah, no, I'm comfortable there.
Quickly, I want to open it up. Any questions for our panelists? Yes, please.
So I live in downtown Palo Alto, and we've seen this dynamic where the tech businesses are coming in, there's the tech influx, and it's driven up the rents, and so a lot of the retail is being driven out, and then it gets replaced by offices. So how do you keep that from happening in the market?
That question in Palo Alto, with the big tech companies coming into downtown, they're driving out the smaller businesses and offices are coming up, so how do you keep
Well, I don't think we're ever going to have offices as an allowable use on the ground floor in Central Market. I've read about this happening in some of those towns down in the peninsula. It won't happen here. It's too integral to what we're trying to do. So any efforts to tinker with the planning code, I do not think will lead to that. And then I guess in terms of just rents, it was more the kinds of things that we've been talking about here, different interventions that the city can do, whether it's the tax break or whether it's leasing help or financing, to try to make it work for the small businesses.
Palo Alto's rents are twice what the most expensive rents are in San Francisco. They're the highest rents in the country.
A question back, Ken?
I had a question for Amy on tweaking the planning code. Any changes, particularly with the PDR, to allow for nonprofit office use?
Oh, okay, you're talking about south of Market.
Tweaking the planning code.
I am not the best person to speak to that. And when you say for nonprofit office use, you're saying to make that a more allowable use.
Correct.
I believe there's some technical language that might allow for community serving uses now, and I don't know enough to answer the question any further.
I do want to say, Ken, that I'm on the Eastern Neighbours Citizens Advisory Committee, and we're certainly still working on tweaking some of the PDR, particularly like the 16th Street corridor where the middle PDR, I don't think it's really working that well, but we are working on tweaking. So, and Western Summer was the other one that I was on for a number of years. The advisory committee on that, so we are working on that.
It would seem like second and third story buildings, particularly, you have a lot of vacant space in PDR zoned areas, and that could be perfect nonprofit office.
And Ken, I think it's really a thing that you brought up. I had recently a client who had a place to be rented on Valencia Street that they didn't allow on the third floor. It had to be residential. And through the help of Supervisor David Campos, he changed the zoning for that, so they could. So it can be done by the way.
One more question, back in the back.
I'm a law student at UC Hastings, and I was just wondering, as the Central Market begins to transform, are there any ways that we can prevent the challenges that Central Market has faced from kind of being pushed into other neighborhoods?
When you say being pushed into other neighborhoods,
Do you mean the people, or do you mean, what do you mean?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of challenges. One of which are ensuring access for the people of Central Market, and another being, making sure that small businesses can also develop around Hastings, for example. How can we ensure that, Central Market incorporates beyond kind of the mid-market strip?
I think that there's a lot of people looking at the Tenderloin right now and trying to figure out what is the best way to leverage everything that's happening on Central Market for the Tenderloin. And we're starting to see this on Taylor Street, dating back to, before 2010, we worked with Tenderloin Economic Development Project to bring a really nice piece of storefront property online, which was first Gray Area Foundation for the Arts and now a Center for New Music. But we have several new businesses that are opening or have opened on Taylor and Mason. And I think that everyone sort of got their eye to that issue in terms of how do we take advantage of the attention, the resources, the interest from the small business community and pull it further.
Yeah, John, and I think you had mentioned, once it's Market Street, it just sort of starts radiating out then to all of the other neighborhoods around that area. So it'll really be interesting to see what is going to happen in the next couple of years. Okay, one last question, because I did see a hand here, and then we will close it out.
Adel Ghazali, I'm from the Care Food. We do have a location in 16 Mission, produce market, we have a meat market, now we're opening a juice market, center store. We're planning to expand to Market Street, 7 Market, and Longwood was at $1 square foot. We got the improvement in the store. Now the lounge change the rate to $3 a square foot, which is affordable. So we have the improvement. We're willing to go to anywhere to expand if we can go the right rate or the affordable rate. So you guys can help us, and we're willing to go anywhere.
So again, just looking at how the rents will affect who comes in, and that's, I guess that's something where, I don't know if you're working with Urban Solutions, but definitely, I'm sure they are definitely, can be a part of that conversation. All I have to say is this has been a great conversation. I've learned so much about the Central Market area, and I want to thank our panelists today. Amy